9 Central African time, you're still tuned in to news and views of myself, Salai Lomakwidi. We're going to be wrapping up today's edition of the show with our hashtag Africa Focus feature. And we'll be looking at Sudan, where the United Nations has come out and warned that the escalating drone strikes in Sudan are putting civilians at even greater risk and severely disrupting humanitarian operations in that part of the continent. The latest report, attack in North Darfur, left dozens dead as the conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces continues. With no seemingly end in sight. And it does look like that some diplomatic efforts that are underway, but it doesn't look like they're going to be yielding any kinds of results anytime soon. And while all that is happening, millions continue to remain displaced and in urgent need of assistance. And to help us unpack these developments, we're joined by Dr. Abdul Kareem Elgoni. He's a Sudanese political analyst and is also the chairperson of the African Diaspora Forum. Dr. Elgoni, jazakallah so much for joining us. Always a pleasure having you on air. Salam.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for having me and discussing issues of Sudan. We really need that.
No, pleasure as well. Now I want to jump right into it. The UN came out quite strongly with a statement saying the latest drone strikes out in Sudan are disrupting humanitarian efforts and operations, and they're putting civilians at even a greater risk. From your perspective, if you can just encapsulate, give us a short synopsis of what's currently happening in Sudan. What is the latest regarding engagements between the RSF and the Sudanese forces?
You see, as you know, this war, this is the fourth year of this meaningless war between the army, who has been ruling Sudan since independence or before independence, and they wanted to continue forever. And the Sudanese people have clearly said in 2018-19, when they deposed al-Bashir, the head of the army at that time, that they had enough of the military rule and they wanted civilian government. And during 30 years of Muslim Brotherhood rule of Sudan, they have changed the whole setup of the leaders of the army establishment and the other security establishment being Muslim Brotherhood members. And now they wanted to rule by force. And this incident that you have just mentioned is just the last one. Last week, there were two in North Kordofan, and the week before, there is in North Kordofan. This is becoming a weekly thing, and people, every morning when they get up from sleep, they will ask themselves, will I be alive today afternoon? They attack especially during market days. And civilians are the ones who are dying. They say, we have seen an RSF vehicle that is next to the market. But when they use what sometimes they use the drones, but most times they use what we call the fire barrels. Those are barrels that are filled with petrol and iron and whatever, and the plane releases it from high distances, and it falls wherever it falls. And actually, really, the civilians are suffering, and we don't know how to stop it.
Another, I think, concerning aspect, and I think the UN also came out quite strongly on it, is the fact that civilians are increasingly bearing the brunt of these attacks. Why has it been in the Sudanese conflict that the protection of civilians has become so difficult, whether it's women or it's children or all the civilians in general? It seems like they've always been caught in the crossfire and they're the biggest victims when it comes to these two warring factions.
You see, a year after the start of the war, the general, the deputy of Burhan, said clearly to the RSF, please, can you take the west of Sudan and leave the north for us? And when the RSF refused, they used prohibited weapons to push the RSF out of Khartoum and the north. And the RSF is now mainly in the west of Sudan. And for them, west of Sudan should be a land with no people. And this is what they are doing. There is no fighting. Let me put it to you this way. The RSF have stopped any fighting in the north of Sudan. People are saying there is a sort of an agreement after the Americans spoke to the RSF, please, can you stop any bombing in the north of Sudan, including Khartoum? And they agreed. And they said that we will talk to the army so that they stop any bombing in the west of Sudan. But the RSF abided by this agreement, but the army is refusing. And for them, everyone in west of Sudan is a target, army or non-army. They don't differentiate. They say that the people of west of Sudan have accepted the RSF to stay in their lands. It means they are part of the RSF, and accordingly, they kill everyone there and they destroy You see that they destroyed the hospital, they destroyed the schools where the refugees are staying. They hit the markets. It is really becoming very difficult, and the brunt of this is going to the civilians. There is now 4 million in Egypt. There is 1 million in Chad. There is maybe almost 1 million in South Sudan. There is more than 250,000 in Uganda, and the civilians are running away for their lives.
I want us to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to focus on what is the latest here. There are developments that, the RSF has suffered some big losses when it comes to territory in some parts of Sudan. I want to touch on what could this signal? Does it signal that maybe these territorial setbacks could ultimately lead us to some kind of negotiation, or is it too early to say that the RSF is somewhat losing the war outright? But we'll focus on that after the short break.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
Africa. Give the gift of clean water with Africa Muslims Agency. With every water well or borehole you donate, your drop becomes a river, reconnecting communities to nourishment, education, dignity and empowerment. Sponsor a water well for 17,000 Rand in Africa or a borehole for 65,000 Rand in Afghanistan or Africa. Quench the thirst. Reconnect the soul with Africa Muslims Agency.
Right now, in lands many of us feel deeply connected to, a mother holds a sick child, worried and fearful as she knows her nearest hospital has been destroyed. This is the mother we go beyond borders to reach. Doctors Without Borders is there in the world's toughest places. We go where others can't or won't, and we go immediately. When you give to us, we go even further. Visit msf.org.za/sadaqa, that's SADAQAH, and support Doctors Without Borders today. Doctors Without Borders, we go there.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Welcome back. 10 minutes before 12 of the hour, 10 Central African time, and I'm still in conversation with Dr. Abdul, Kareem, Elgoni, chairperson of the African Diaspora Forum, and we're having a really, really important conversation on Sudan. I'm sure we all know about Sudan, or we should be knowing about Sudan. It is the biggest humanitarian crisis on the African continent right now, and it's not getting as much attention as it deserves, and we plan to educate, especially here on Salam Media, with the platform that we have, to speak about Sudan as much as possible, because we can't speak about what's happening far beyond our borders while we ignore what's happening right here on the African continent, because it does affect us directly. Dr. Elgoni, jazakallah so much for staying with us. Before we went on to that short break, I wanted to touch briefly on the latest developments, the fact that the Sudanese armed forces seem to have regained very, very key strategic areas. This is including some parts of Khartoum, while the RSF in itself remains entrenched in parts of Darfur, and they continue to launch some of these increasingly sophisticated drone attacks that we've been seeing, and the UN came out to also condemn. Does this suggest the RSF is losing its territorial grip to some extent, or is it deliberately shifting towards asymmetrical warfare to try and prolong this conflict?
You see, one of the strange phenomenon of this war is that every second month you hear an army barracks people who have defected with their equipment to the RSF. And the next week you hear that a group with their military vehicles have defected from the RSF to the army. And this happens regularly as part of the shift in the interest of people in the war. As you know, this war that doesn't have any objective. It is the objective of the fighters. Everyone wanted as much as he can. So when someone thinks that the army will give him more, he will go there. If someone gives the RSF, will give him more, he defects to the RSF. So for us, this is meaningless. Because for us as civilians, we are saying to ourselves from day one that we want this war to stop. And whatever is happening in this war, we measure it with that measure. Is this defection bringing the ceasefire nearer or not? If it is not bringing the ceasefire nearer, it means it is something like the old defections. It is useless. It only interests in the two fighting parties. But the most important thing that is happening now is that last week there was a meeting in Addis Ababa that was called for by the African Union together with IGAD, the European Union, the Arab League, and they brought a number of Sudanese civilians trying to bring a sort of a ceasefire. But the thing is, the previous Prime Minister of Sudan, Hamdok team, and the Ummah Party and other democratic groups refused to attend that meeting. They are saying this meeting is orchestrated by the African Union, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, specifically to keep the army in power. And no Sudanese wanted the army to continue in power. So they refused to go there. But anyway, the meeting happened, and it is trying to get a middle ground for the Sudanese to agree so that we have a ceasefire. But nothing is happening that is make us hopeful. because the Muslim Brotherhood army in Sudan is insisted in ruling Sudan, irrespective of what the Sudanese want. And the RSF and the democratic groups like Hamdok's uh, team, Sumud, they wanted a civilian rule back. And to be very frank with you, this is a very difficult situation. And South Africa, as a democracy, is not having a strong voice into this problem. We never see here South Africa is doing something, although South Africa is a leading country in Africa. We wanted to see more of the South Africans involved in finding a solution to this war, especially at the rehabilitation of Sudan after the destruction of every uh, uh, infrastructure in Sudan. South Africa will be one of the main actors who can bring infrastructure to Sudan. We want more involvement of South Africa into this conflict.
Mm, mm, mm. I want to talk about the impact of the Middle East. There's been a lot of conversation regarding the war out in the Middle East and how it has affected or impacted the trajectory of the Sudanese war. From your perspective, are there any correlation between the two?
Yes, there is a very clear correlation between the two for two different reasons. One reason is that Al Burhan, when he pushed the RSF out of Khartoum, it pushed it using Iranian armament and technical staff. And this angered a number of people in the Gulf and angered the Americans. Why are you bringing the Iranians into the war in Sudan? And that is one thing that is affecting the war, because also the government in Sudan is trying to give Iran a foothold on the Red Sea on the side of Sudan. And this is something that no one wanted at this time, especially Egypt and Saudi Arabia. The other factor that is affecting Sudan is that there is support for the fighting armies from the Middle East, and this war have, in a way, made people that involved more in their own problem than going out and looking for the Sudan problem, and their engagement actually became less, and became at a lower level instead of being at an upper level, that the shakers and movers who can make things happen. So although meetings happen, but happen at a lower level, just to keep things moving, but not affecting the war itself. So definitely there is a negative impact from the war in the Gulf on the problem in Sudan. This is one. Secondly, the media is now more involved reporting about what is happening in the Middle East, which is very small compared to what is happening in Sudan. And there is no coverage for the problems of Sudan, and this has impacted also the problem in Sudan negatively. This is why we feel very happy when you as Salah Media bring this issue out, so that at least people can hear something about what is happening in Sudan, and they try to engage the Sudanese to bring cessation of hostilities in Sudan.
There you go. I think we're going to leave on that note. Dr. Abdul Kareem Elgoni, chairperson of the African Diaspora Forum, and also a Sudanese political commentator. Jazakallah so much. Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Actually, I'm a previous chairman of the African Diaspora Forum. I have already given the chairmanship to another colleague of ours of the diaspora. But thank you very much for this, and please continue covering Sudan. Thank you very much. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. And with that, we've come to the end of today's edition of News and Views. Thank you so much for staying with us for the past 2 hours. If you missed any of the interviews that we had, well, you can head over to our social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, X, and you'll be able to watch live. Otherwise, head over to our Spotify channel. Just search @Salam Media. and all of the podcasts of the shows that we've had will definitely pop out. Otherwise, head over to our website, www.salammedia.com, and you'll be able to also interact with some, I think, wonderful, well-written articles by our brilliant online team about some of the conversations that we've had on air. Otherwise, if you want to engage with us, you can give us a call on our studio line. Wait, I just have to find it now. Our studio line is 011 6800355, or you can send us a WhatsApp on 061 and now you can ask, suggest what you want us to cover, or what do you want to know more about. Otherwise, there's a lot of shows that are coming up next, so tune in to Salam Media, and I'll be back with you again tomorrow for the Wednesday. Yeah, the week is flying by, for the Wednesday edition of the show. And yeah, that's it. Shop. Bye-bye. We'll see you tomorrow.